Hey everybody, hoping I can do this quickly. My videos tend to be a little long-winded, I know, but I just wanted to make a quick update on what's going on with Kratom as far as there's really no information to reveal other than what those in the Kratom community already know, which is that it does appear to be under threat now. In 2016, when the DEA declared their intent to schedule Kratom under the Schedule 1, um, there was a major backlash among all of us. And I know a lot of folks weren't aware of Kratom during that time. And so today they're fighting what appears to be a new fight and aware of what's happened before. But I just kind of wanted to move through what's happened up to this point and give my viewpoint on it. And after 2016, when we had 120, 130,000 signatures on a petition, the DEA did back down. It was one of the first times, if not the first time, I believe, that the public outcry has forced them to back down on scheduling a substance. A very similar situation happened in 1994. And in 1994, they tried to ban several supplements. They wanted to make them only available with prescription. And the supplement industry fought back hard because they weren't just attacking one plant, they were attacking many. And so while some were pulled off the shelf here and there, like ephedrine, things like that, we were able to keep buying supplements as long as they are properly labeled. And now anyone who buys any herbs in the store today knows that they will always say, this plant, this herb has not been evaluated by the FDA and is not intended to diagnose, prevent, or cure any disease. And some of them even have to go as far as to say not for human consumption, which is unfortunately what a lot of folks had to do with Kratom. So we are stuck in this kind of an impasse. On one hand, we know that Kratom works for people and that it helps people. But on the other hand, according to the FDA, their anecdotal evidence over hundreds of years is worthless compared to what the FDA knows to be true. So I won't go through and try to change anyone's mind who, I mean, most of you are probably already on the side of Kratom remaining legal. There are a few people out there who probably still believe that it's truly a danger, but it's not. The idea that 40 people over the last 10 years have somehow died from Kratom is not just absurd, but a ridiculous number, even if it were true. Even if these people had taken Kratom and died right away, this is from the Kratom, which is not what happened. In fact, one of the supposed victims had a gunshot wound to the chest, so some of them were taking a variety of antipsychotics and antidepressants. But let's really get into the numbers here. So 40 deaths over however many years from Kratom is the claim, which is complete BS. But even if that were true, would that really be the issue? Probably not. There are 65,000 deaths last year from prescription drugs, or overdoses, deaths from drugs in this country. Well over half of those were from opioids, and that's being generous. Let's just even go with 35,000 people dying of opioids. The thought is that for every one overdose where someone dies, a fatality, that there are 30 overdoses in which a person is either brought out of it with naloxone or doesn't quite overdose enough to die and is able to survive it. That's times 30. Now, even if at the moderate 35,000 deaths per year, that brings the total overdoses to 1 million overdoses per year. That is a very significant number, of course. A lot of people use a variety of different opioids, but many of the times these are combined with benzodiazepines or whatnot. But it's kind of fascinating to find out that in Massachusetts, they had 12,000 doses of naloxone given over a 2-year period. That's 12,000 doses. Now that was, you see, back in 2000 and in 2014, only 12 states allowed EMS to even give naloxone, and people fought to change that. And so now, now EMS is allowed to use it in all states, plus family members, and average person can buy an naloxone kit. And if you're not aware of what that is, it brings a person out of an overdose by blocking those receptor sites. It can be an amazing tool for saving people, but a lot of people have mixed feelings. They say, well, by having this available, it makes people more likely to take chances. And other people will say, well, screw it. If people are going to overdose, then, it's, that's their own stupidity, and that, why should we be saving them? Addiction is tough. Even the most hardcore opiate addict doesn't want to be in that place. There's a reason why we get addicted to these substances, but what we're doing is we're discussing the wrong. We're looking at numbers, and this is what they say the FDA is going on to try to ban this. So for each overdose, there's 30 non-fatal overdoses. Between 2005 and 2014, over a 9-year period, opioid-related hospital visits were up 99.4%. So basically doubled in 9 years. That's a very significant number. That's not a 10, 15, 20%, but that means that it has doubled in 9 years. And that wasn't from 2005 to 2014. From 2014 to 2018, I haven't even looked at the numbers, but I know that it's up significantly more right now. So the idea is that basically in the time that I've worked on making this video, at least one person has died. It kills 5 people per hour, opioids, and many of these are prescribed opioids as well. And when we talk about interactions, I mean, doctors are more than willing to pump people full of a variety of compounds that may interact with one another. It's not the doctor's fault always, it's just that these compounds are not well understood. There was a grant, a U.S. grant, which means that tax dollars paid for a study on kratom back in 1964, in which speciophyllene was extracted, and an attempted patent to show, if you look in the description, it lists out all the symptoms and details, and says it helps with pain, and it can help patients overcome addiction. So the idea that there's no science behind kratom at all is absurd. Just because something wasn't followed through with doesn't mean that there's no science done. The U.S. grant is US 3324111A, if you want to look it up. It says that it's very useful for antitussive and analgesic uses, which is pain, and for, the idea that it has no use, really, even if it didn't, wouldn't matter. There's obviously a blatant attack being made on kratom. As a cannabis advocate for, half my life, I know that cannabis has been fought against because the pharmaceutical industry will lose billions of dollars if cannabis were to become legal nationwide. It's unfortunate that money over rights has always been the thing, but that's just the way it is. It's not going to change overnight. So this isn't trying to say, oh, we got to fight against them. It's to say, is there a different way to fight this? I would like to say that we can write our Congress and write our senators, but, the head of the FDA, Scott Gottlieb, received $400,000 from pharma from 2013 to 2015. That's $500,000 over a 2-year period, and that's just what's declared. That's just what's known. Why? What exactly was he doing to make this much money? And who's to say that he's not still lobbying? Well, as soon as you bring this up, people say, well, everybody leans towards the conspiracies and it's always about money. But in this case, it is about money, because the pharmaceutical lobby, they have billions to spend. Scott Gottlieb has also, even though he's made some attempts to make generics cheaper, he actually has tried to make it easier for drugs to be passed without clinical trials. So in other words, they want to make it easier to patent drugs quickly that have been shown to not harm you, but not necessarily shown to be effective. Efficacy doesn't matter, it's only the dangers. So, we have all these chemicals that we're patenting, throwing into our bodies and saying, hey, it's good enough, good enough. The way I say it is, leave kratom alone. But that's not going to happen. And so what do we do? And what are your ideas? What do you, like I said, writing Congress is great. Calling your senators is great. But I looked into this. I wanted to know exactly where our calls were going. And over the last 5 years, I read this long article explaining how over the last few years, as the internet has made it easier for people to contact their senators in Congress, that basically most of them have inboxes that are just piling up with hundreds, if not thousands, of emails, and a majority of them are just answered generically. And when people are fighting for a cause, they might all send in the same type of format because they don't maybe not good at writing themselves, so they'll use a certain format letter to say, I am a citizen and I want this to be done or this to be done. And politicians, like anyone else, just glaze over that. And you know that they have things to do. Now, there are some that are on our side and that understand this. I'm not saying that you shouldn't call your senators. Absolutely write and call your Congress and senators. But just know that merely leaving a note and hoping for the best, or even signing a petition, isn't always going to work. I think we need louder voices. And I think, in my opinion, if the average Kratom user who had taken the time to write a letter to Congress or to their, governor, whatever it may be, if they took the time, the same amount of time, to make a video and or a blog or something where they were speaking their mind online, to where, if enough people did that, it would be everywhere. So I think that the most important thing is that people who have clout, people who have a voice, unfortunately celebrities, are the ones that we need to influence the most to do these things. Because it's sad, because I don't want to admit that, because it means that, I'm saying we have a shallow society that only listens to the famous, but that's just the way it is. So we need more people on our side that stand up for other people and what they believe is important. Weird, hearing things. So anyhow, that's all I've got for right now. I don't talk about Kratom very often because it's like spinning my wheels, repeating the same thing over and over. What they're doing is shutting out vendors. They're shutting out, distributors, and I understand that people are concerned and that they want a quality control. But the thing is, when you're talking about a natural plant, it's this way with all herbs. You're never going to get. It's up to the consumer to know who they're dealing with. It's not up to Big Papa FDA to protect us from all these things that we can take care of on our own. We've grown, we've matured as a society, and it's time. It's time for Kratom to just be left alone, so we can continue to use it as whatever a person uses it for, and everyone has their own reasons. But what they're doing by declaring it an opioid is scaring everyone else away from wanting to carry it. You can't sell it on eBay or Amazon. You can't get a credit processors. It's making it harder for consumers and vendors, and it's their way of trying to shut us out. But they're never going to shut us up. So take care, everyone, and your thoughts are always welcome. Take care.